Hello Golden State Warriors fans, we are here once again to bring you the latest news related to our team, and I would like to emphasize how committed we are to improving our performance to achieve great results. Before we dive into this intriguing news, I kindly request you to show your support by clicking the like button, and if you are not yet subscribed to our channel, I invite you all to join us on an exciting journey. Remember to turn on notifications so you don't miss anything.
Forget the money. The Warriors are undervaluing Jonathan Kaminga in a much deeper way, says Zach Lowe. It's no longer just about the numbers. The ongoing contract negotiations between Jonathan Kaminga and the Golden State Warriors have exposed something deeper, a fundamental disconnect in how the franchise views one of its most promising young players. According to ESPN's Shams Charania and Anthony Slater, the Warriors recently increased their contract offer from 2 years, $45 million, to 3 years, $75.2 million. But with a catch, the final year would be a team option. Kaminga's camp, however, has made it clear they'll only agree to a player option if the annual value climbs closer to $30 million. They're reportedly open to a lower figure, around $20 million per year, as long as that final year puts control in Kaminga's hands. Negotiations aside, it's what's happened on the court, and behind the scenes, that's raised eyebrows. Zach Lowe, the margin for error was way too small for Kaminga. On a recent episode of The Lowe Post, ESPN's Zach Lowe shed light on the internal challenges Kaminga has faced since joining the Warriors in 2021. And his assessment was blunt. Kaminga walked into a really tough situation, Lowe said. A veteran team, trying to win now, built around stars who thrive in a beautiful, complex system. They needed someone like him, a powerful, athletic scorer who could get to the line, finish in traffic, and create something out of nothing. But at the same time, they expected him to do all of that within the system. Lowe went on to describe how Kaminga, at times, struggled to balance that dual expectation, trying to be himself while fitting into a rigid offensive structure. Yes, there were poor shot selections. Yes, there were moments where he broke away from the playbook. But according to Lowe, there was also genuine effort to learn and adapt. He worked hard to understand the pin downs for Steph, Curry, the kickouts, the timing with Draymond. He wasn't playing selfishly. He was trying. Sometimes it looked great. Sometimes it didn't. But the coaching staff's tolerance for mistakes was just way too low for a young player in that environment. And that, Lowe suggested, is where the Warriors may have truly misstepped. Not in the offer sheet, but in the opportunity. They needed to let him play through those mistakes. That's what young players need. That's how they grow. That leash was too short. Wasted potential, or a star in the waiting. The numbers tell part of the story. Last season, Kaminga averaged 15.3 points and 4.6 rebounds, shooting 45.4% from the field. But he played in just 47 games, often sidelined by injuries or, more frustratingly, coaching decisions. Steve Kerr kept his minutes around 24 per game, limiting Kaminga's rhythm and growth. When Kaminga was finally given extended minutes, notably in the playoffs after Stephen Curry injury, he delivered. In Game 3 of the series against the Minnesota Timberwolves, he exploded for 30 points in 36 minutes, showing flashes of the two-way force he could become. Those moments weren't outliers. They were glimpses of a ceiling still within reach, if, and only if, the opportunity is there. The decision looming over Golden State. Kaminga's development, or lack of it, isn't just a reflection on the coaching staff. It's a test of the franchise's long-term vision. Golden State's front office, led by Joe Lacob, made a deliberate decision in 2021 to draft Kaminga over Franz Wagner, a choice that signaled confidence in his potential. Now, the Warriors find themselves at a crossroads. Do they double down on Kaminga, invest in his growth, and give him the consistent role he's earned? Or do they cash in, trade him for win-now pieces, and cling to one more championship run with the current core? The tension is real. The risk is bigger than cap space or contract terms. If the Warriors misread this moment, if they undervalue Kaminga now the same way they constrained him in his early development, they could lose more than a player. They could lose what might have been the bridge to their next era. A fork in the road. Jonathan Kaminga is just 22 years old. He has size, explosiveness, and the kind of raw scoring ability that's nearly impossible to teach. But talent alone isn't enough. It needs room to grow. Right now, the Warriors have to decide. Will they keep limiting his path with cautious rotations and inflexible expectations? Or will they finally trust the player they once believed could help carry the franchise into the future? The money matters. But it's the mindset that may matter more. internal frustration and a fractured timeline. Behind closed doors, multiple reports suggest that Kaminga's frustration has grown, not just because of his minutes, but due to mixed messages from the organization. He was often told to be aggressive, but when he found himself benched after mistakes. He was told to trust the system, but rarely given the same patience extended to other young talents around the league. This inconsistency has led to an erosion of trust. According to sources close to Kaminga's camp, there's a growing belief that the Warriors have not fully backed him, at least not in the way a franchise typically supports a potential cornerstone. The lack of a defined role, coupled with the hesitation to commit to him financially with full guarantees, has only added fuel to that belief. Even during the playoffs, after his breakout performance in Game 3, Kaminga's usage remained unpredictable. In some games, he played extended minutes and carried the offense through tough stretches. In others, he sat for long stretches, watching from the bench as the offense stagnated. Around the league, other teams are watching. This growing tension hasn't gone unnoticed around the NBA. Several teams, including the Sacramento Kings and Phoenix Suns, have reportedly made inquiries about Kaminga's availability in sign-and-trade scenarios, although Golden State has thus far declined to move him. Executives across the league see Kaminga as a potential breakout star, someone who could thrive in a more open offensive system with guaranteed usage. His age, athleticism, and flashes of shot creation make him one of the more intriguing young players potentially on the move. And if the Warriors aren't prepared to maximize him, someone else almost certainly will. As one Western Conference scout put it, if Golden State's not going to lean into Kaminga, there are 10 teams ready to do it tomorrow. They just have to pick a direction. The contract standoff and what it really represents. While the negotiation has become a numbers game, player option versus team option, $20 million versus $30 million, the underlying issue is trust. Kaminga wants to feel valued, not just paid. He wants a commitment that goes beyond money, one that reflects belief in his role and future with the team. The Warriors' hesitation to offer a player option in the final year speaks volumes. It suggests a reluctance to give up long-term control, even after 3 years of seeing what Kaminga can bring. From a purely financial standpoint, the team's offer isn't unreasonable. But from a personal and developmental standpoint, it's a message: we still need to see more. For a player who's been held on a tight leash since day one, and still produced, that message may not land well. Golden State's identity crisis. All of this feeds into a larger question for the Warriors. Who are they becoming? The franchise is no longer just the dynasty of the past decade. It's now a team in transition. The aging core of Curry, Thompson, and Green can't carry the load forever. And yet the front office has often hesitated when it comes to giving real responsibility to the next generation. Moses Moody has seen sporadic development. James Wiseman is already gone. Now, Jonathan Kaminga, arguably the most talented of them all, stands at a similar crossroads. The Warriors are attempting to bridge eras without fully committing to either. And unless something changes, they risk getting stuck in the middle, not old enough to dominate, not young enough to build. What comes next? As training camp approaches, the tension between player and organization will only intensify if no deal is reached. Kaminga is eligible for an extension until the start of the season. If no agreement is reached, he'll enter restricted free agency next summer, and the market could be far more aggressive than Golden State expects. Meanwhile, the coaching staff and front office must decide whether they're willing to make the structural changes needed to accommodate Kaminga's growth. That means more minutes, more trust, and more flexibility in a system that has often been rigid by design. This isn't just a question of development anymore, it's a question of direction. Are the Warriors ready to evolve? A final thought. Jonathan Kaminga was never just another young player in the Warriors' pipeline. He was drafted as a future star, a physical, high-upside wing with the tools to become a two-way force. He's done his part, improved year over year, stayed coachable, accepted inconsistent roles, and stepped up when given the chance. Now the ball is in Golden State's court. The Warriors can't afford to miss again, not with a player whose ceiling may still be rising. Not when the margin for error in the Western Conference is smaller than ever. And not when the window for sustainable success after Curry depends so heavily on who's trusted next. Jonathan Kaminga will embrace Stephen Curry's championship vision, if the Warriors meet one key condition. Jonathan Kaminga is ready to put pride and numbers aside, if the Golden State Warriors are willing to make one small, but meaningful change to their latest offer. The young forward's contract saga has been one of the defining stories of the Warriors' off-season. After multiple failed attempts to reach an extension, The relationship between Kaminga and the organization seemed to hang in the balance. The front office reportedly asked a direct question, "Do you still want to be here?" And up until recently, Kaminga's rejection of their $75.2 million offer suggested the answer might be no. But now, there's a turning point, and a path forward. More than money, a request for respect. Sources close to Kaminga say it's no longer about the dollar amount. It's about feeling valued, trusted, and finally having clarity on his future. According to ESPN's Anthony Slater, Kaminga is now willing to accept the original $75.2 million deal, as long as the Warriors are willing to make one key adjustment. Change the final year from a team option to a player option. Slater explained the shift clearly. "I spoke to Aaron Turner, Kaminga's agent, this morning. Their message is simple: flip the team option to a player option, and it's done. Jonathan signs. He commits. He buys in, fully. It's not an ultimatum. It's a gesture of goodwill. A small change with significant emotional and professional weight. A clear commitment to the Warriors' championship goals. What Kaminga is offering isn't just compromise. It's a clear sign that he's willing to align himself fully with the Warriors' title hopes. He's ready to contribute alongside Stephen Curry and Draymond Green in pursuit of a fifth ring. And he's motivated by something bigger than stats: legacy. Sources have even said Kaminga is viewing this as a mission, one that includes not just pushing the Warriors back into true contention, but possibly helping Jimmy Butler win his first championship ring if a trade ever materialized. But above all, Kaminga is asking for control of his own future, the same kind of flexibility Jalen Green reportedly secured in his recent deal with the Rockets. That deal, like Kaminga's proposed structure, didn't stop Houston from keeping their options open. In fact, they were still able to move Green for Kevin Durant. The message? A player option doesn't prevent a franchise from making strategic moves. It simply acknowledges the player's value and agency. The clock is ticking, and the deal is within reach. With less than 2 weeks left before the October 1st deadline for qualifying offers, time is running out. But this is also the closest the two sides have come to real agreement during a rocky negotiation process. This is a golden opportunity, not just to lock in a deal, but to reset the relationship with a player who has the potential to be a major part of the team's next era. And frankly, from a front office perspective, agreeing to a player option should not be a deal breaker. It doesn't make Kaminga untradeable. It doesn't tie their hands. What it does is send a message: we trust you. We believe in your growth. We're in this together. A moment of truth for the Warriors. Jonathan Kaminga isn't asking for stardom on a silver platter. He's not demanding a max contract. He's not seeking a trade. Not anymore. He's asking for one thing: respect through structure. A chance to continue his development in a place that once drafted him as a franchise piece, but has yet to treat him like one. And now, the Warriors must decide: will they meet him halfway? Because at the end of the day, winning championships requires more than talent. It requires trust. This isn't just about 2025. It's about whether the Warriors want to build a future with Kaminga, or risk watching him become a star somewhere else. The answer could shape not only Kaminga's future, but theirs too. A franchise at a crossroads, and a young star waiting. The Warriors' hesitancy to meet Kaminga's request has not gone unnoticed, by fans, by rival executives, and most importantly, by the locker room. Several voices around the league have quietly questioned Golden State's reluctance to lock in one of their most promising young players with a structure that's become common in modern NBA contracts. After all, a player option in the final year is hardly groundbreaking. It's a minor concession that gives the athlete a degree of autonomy without stripping the franchise of leverage. But for Kaminga, it represents something more personal, proof that the team believes in his place within its future. Internally, some within the Warriors circle acknowledge that Kaminga has handled this difficult process with more patience than expected. He hasn't demanded a trade. He hasn't gone public with grievances. Instead, he's continued to show up, privately making it clear that his commitment to the team remains intact, if the organization is willing to finally meet him at eye level. The locker room dynamic: quiet support for Kaminga. According to multiple reports, veteran teammates, including Draymond Green and even Stephen Curry, have taken note of Kaminga's growth, both on and off the court. While neither has publicly weighed in on the contract talks, insiders suggest that the team understands Kaminga's frustration. They've seen his work ethic, his improvement in film sessions, and the emotional restraint he's shown through years of inconsistent usage. The message is clear: if Kaminga is given room to grow, he can be a difference maker. And players know it. This dynamic adds even more urgency to the situation. With the Warriors' veteran core aging, and the Western Conference only growing more competitive, every internal relationship matters. A disillusioned Kaminga, or worse, one allowed to walk away for nothing, would be a blow not just to the roster, but to the chemistry that Golden State has worked so hard to preserve. The broader implications, more than just a deal. There's also a broader organizational risk here. Golden State has already watched James Wiseman, a former No.2 pick, leave without ever reaching his potential in their system. Moses Moody has spent most of his time as a fringe rotation player. If Kaminga follows the same path, underutilized, undertrusted, and eventually undervalued, the front office may be forced to reckon with a pattern of underdevelopment, one that could hurt the team's reputation among young players and agents. Furthermore, other franchises are watching and waiting. Several teams, including the Orlando Magic, Brooklyn Nets, and Utah Jazz, have reportedly expressed interest in Kaminga if the Warriors make him available via trade or fail to extend him by the deadline. These teams, many of which are in rebuild or hybrid phases, see Kaminga as a potential franchise cornerstone. Letting him go, or letting the relationship sour, would be a costly mistake. A decision that reflects direction. As October 1st draws closer, the Warriors aren't just negotiating a contract. They're making a decision about who they are. Are they still clinging to the past, investing everything in one last run with their aging stars? Or are they preparing for what comes next, with Kaminga as a centerpiece of that next generation? Their choice in the coming days will answer that question more clearly than any press conference ever could. And Kaminga? He's already extended his hand. He's made it known, "I'll meet you there. I'll commit. Just give me the respect I've earned." The rest is up to the franchise. Sign and trade talks between Kings and Warriors for Jonathan Kaminga still alive. Just when it seemed like the Jonathan Kaminga Sacramento Kings saga had reached its final chapter, new developments suggest the story is far from over. According to Sam Amick of The Athletic, the Kings remain very much in the mix to acquire the 22-year-old forward via a potential sign-and-trade deal with the Golden State Warriors. Negotiations haven't completely stalled. In fact, sources close to the situation say the Kings believe Kaminga genuinely wants to play in Sacramento. The biggest hold-up? Protections on a future first-round pick. The framework is in place, but one detail remains. The Kings have reportedly offered veteran guard Malik Monk along with a protected 2030 first-round pick to Golden State. On top of that, they're prepared to give Kaminga a 3-year, $63 million contract, a significant financial commitment and a clear statement of belief in his future. It's a well-structured offer. $21 million per year for a young, starting-caliber, two-way wing. Room for Kaminga to grow into a bigger role. Flexibility for the Kings to move him later if needed. But despite the strong framework, the Warriors remain hesitant, primarily due to the protections attached to Sacramento's future first-rounder. Sources suggest that if the Kings were to lift those protections and make the pick fully unprotected, Golden State might finally agree to the deal. As of now, they haven't. Why the Kings are still in a strong position. While the Warriors technically still control Kaminga's restricted free agency rights, the Kings are under no pressure to force the issue. They're not title contenders this season. They have financial flexibility. And, most importantly, they can afford to wait. If this deal doesn't materialize before October 1st, when the Warriors' qualifying offer to Kaminga expires, Sacramento is expected to make a serious push again next off-season, when Kaminga would potentially become an unrestricted free agent. That's why they're not blinking. And that's why they haven't caved on removing the pick protections. In the meantime, Sacramento continues to reshape its roster under new decision-maker Scott Perry. Whether Kaminga becomes part of that picture now or later remains to be seen, but the interest is real, and it's long-term. Golden State's dilemma: risk, control, and value. From Golden State's side, this situation is becoming harder to manage. If they don't finalize a deal before the deadline, they risk holding on to an unhappy player without a long-term agreement in place. That's not ideal for a team trying to squeeze another title run out of Stephen Curry's prime years. They've already seen Kaminga's camp reject a $75.2 million offer due to lack of flexibility on the final year. And while both sides recently showed signs of softening, nothing is guaranteed. At this point, the Warriors have two choices. Work with the Kings, get value now, and move on from a complicated situation. Or hold firm, risk losing leverage, and hope things improve internally with Kaminga, a player who, by all accounts, is still waiting to be fully trusted. We're approaching the finish line. Whether it's with Sacramento or a last-minute surprise from another team, one thing is certain: time is running out. The Warriors have until October 1st to finalize Kaminga's qualifying offer. After that, their leverage changes. The longer this drags out, the more it risks becoming a distraction heading into training camp, for a franchise that can't afford many missteps in a loaded Western Conference. The Kings have made their offer. Kaminga is willing. The structure is in place. All that remains is one decision, and one shift in posture. Who's going to blink first? The Warriors, the Kings, or Jonathan Kaminga? We're about to find out. Sign and trade talks between Kings and Warriors for Jonathan Kaminga remain open. Just when it seemed like the Jonathan Kaminga saga with the Sacramento Kings was coming to a close, new reports suggest the conversation isn't over yet. The Kings and Golden State Warriors remain in contact over potential sign and trade deals centered around Kaminga. Sacramento has reportedly offered veteran guard Malik Monk and a future first-round pick in exchange. However, the sticking point continues to be the protections on that pick. Golden State is reportedly pushing for the pick to be unprotected, while Sacramento remains hesitant to remove the safeguards. Sources close to the Kings believe that Kaminga genuinely wants to play in Sacramento, which adds urgency and significance to these talks. Despite previously stepping away from negotiations earlier in the summer, the door is still open for both teams to revisit the deal as October approaches. Kaminga's willingness signals a turning point. At the center of all of this is Kaminga's desire for clarity and trust in his role. He has shown a willingness to accept the financial terms of a proposed $75.2 million deal, under the condition that the final year is a player option rather than a team option. This small adjustment, in his eyes, would reflect a mutual level of respect and control over his future. This request is not just about leverage, it's about validation. After years of uncertainty regarding his role under Golden State's coaching staff, Kaminga appears ready to fully buy into the team's championship aspirations, as long as he feels empowered in the process. Why the Kings want Kaminga now? For Sacramento, adding Kaminga on a $21 million per year deal would be a strategic win. He's young, athletic, and capable of filling a major gap on the wing. His versatility on both ends of the court fits well with the Kings' desire to reshape and modernize their roster. The proposed trade package, including a solid veteran in Monk and a future pick, offers value, but the protections on that pick remain a sticking point. Golden State doesn't want to gamble on receiving a pick that may not materialize, while Sacramento understandably wants to protect its long-term assets. What the Warriors are weighing. Golden State's position is complex. They're trying to extend their championship window while managing a generational talent in Stephen Curry, and Kaminga represents both the present and future. But if the front office continues to hesitate, they risk further tension with a player who is clearly seeking long-term clarity. The Warriors' internal debate likely centers around risk management. Do they commit to a player who hasn't yet had a full, consistent opportunity to prove himself? Or do they move on while his trade value is high and continue reshaping the roster around their veteran core? Time is running out. The pressure is mounting. If no extension is reached by October 1st, Kaminga may accept the qualifying offer and play out the season, making him an unrestricted free agent next summer. That scenario would leave Golden State with significantly less leverage and more uncertainty. Sacramento, meanwhile, is in a comfortable position. They don't need to force this deal now. If things don't work out this off-season, they could revisit talks next summer when Kaminga becomes a free agent. For now, they're waiting to see if the Warriors will budge on pick protections. The bigger picture. At its core, this standoff is about more than contract language. It's about role, trust, and long-term direction. Kaminga wants to grow. The Warriors want to win now. The Kings want to evolve. The next few weeks will determine whether this chapter ends in resolution, or if all sides are forced to wait until next summer to find clarity. Either way, time is almost up. Jonathan Kaminga's true feelings about the Warriors revealed. He doesn't want to be in Golden State. As the 2025-26 NBA season approaches, Jonathan Kaminga and the Golden State Warriors find themselves at a critical crossroads, and tensions are quietly building behind the scenes. According to a report from ESPN's Tim McMahon, contract talks between Kaminga and the Warriors have stalled. Golden State has reportedly offered the 21-year-old forward a 3-year, $75.2 million extension, with a team option for the third season. But here's the catch. Kaminga isn't on board with that structure. He's pushing for a player option instead, a move that would give him more control over his future. The Warriors, however, seem unwilling to budge. And now, frustration is starting to boil over. "He's miserable," McMahon said on the Hoop Collective podcast. "He doesn't want to be in Golden State. He knows they don't truly want him either. This isn't just about money. He's not trying to maximize his earnings. He wants to be somewhere he can thrive." That emotional disconnect may run deeper than the contract details. Kaminga reportedly feels he's been underutilized for too long. While the Warriors continue to chase another title in the twilight of Stephen Curry's career, younger players like Kaminga are often left waiting in the wings, unsure of where they truly stand in the organization's long-term vision. "He's been held back long enough," McMahon added. "Now, he just wants the chance to prove what he can really do." The situation highlights a growing tension inside the Warriors organization, balancing win-now urgency with long-term player development. Earlier this year, Golden State made a strong push to trade for Jimmy Butler ahead of the playoffs, a clear sign that the front office is still all in on making one last championship run with Curry. But in doing so, they risk alienating the very core that could carry the franchise into the post-Curry era. Young talents like Moses Moody, Brandon Podziemski, and Kaminga were once seen as the future of the team. While Moody and Podziemski remain locked in for a few more seasons, Kaminga's future is far less certain, and far more urgent. If the Warriors fail to secure him with a deal that reflects both his value and his desire for growth, they could be making a costly mistake. Years from now, this could be the moment they look back on, not as a business decision, but as a turning point they failed to manage right. The internal conflict surrounding Kaminga's future isn't just a matter of one player's frustration. It reflects deeper structural questions about the Warriors' direction as a franchise. Are they still committed to developing their young core, or are they fully locked into chasing short-term titles at all costs? Kaminga's case isn't isolated. Sources close to the situation have indicated that the Warriors' younger players have felt uncertain about their roles, with inconsistent minutes and shifting expectations. Despite flashes of brilliance during the 2024-25 season, Kaminga often found himself playing behind veterans, even in games where his energy and athleticism clearly made a difference. His dissatisfaction has reportedly reached a point where it's not just about playing time or options in a contract, it's about identity. He wants to be in a place where he's not just filling a role, but where he's seen as a core piece of a team's future. Golden State's reluctance to offer a player option could be seen as a sign they aren't fully confident in Kaminga's long-term value, or that they want to maintain flexibility as they navigate an aging roster and looming cap concerns. But from Kaminga's perspective, it's a signal that the team still views him as secondary, even after several seasons of development. The ripple effects of this situation are starting to spread. Around the league, teams are watching closely. If extension talks continue to stall, rival front offices may begin preparing trade scenarios, especially those who believe Kaminga has untapped star potential that hasn't been unlocked under Steve Kerr's system. Inside the Warriors' locker room, the mood is reportedly tense. While Stephen Curry remains the undisputed leader, there's a growing sense that the timeline of the team is fractured, the veterans chasing legacy, and the young core waiting for an opportunity that may never fully arrive. For an organization that once prided itself on culture and continuity, this standoff could mark a turning point. If the Warriors can't bridge the gap with Kaminga, both financially and philosophically, it could send a message to other young players in the system: your future here might not be as secure as it seems. There's also the matter of optics. Letting a 22-year-old former top 10 pick walk away, or worse, trading him for cents on the dollar, would raise serious questions about Golden State's developmental pipeline. It might suggest that the franchise, despite its championship pedigree, hasn't evolved with a new NBA landscape where youth, versatility, and empowerment drive long-term success. As of now, no final decision has been made. Talks remain ongoing, and both sides are said to be open to finding common ground. But with media pressure increasing and the preseason just weeks away, the clock is ticking. What happens next, whether it's a resolution, a trade, or a public fallout, will shape not only Jonathan Kaminga's career, but the identity of the Warriors franchise for years to come.